Good evening. I'd like to call this regular board meeting to order. Today is Monday, June 16th, 7 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
The United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, let's roll reflect that all board members are present. Was this meeting publicly recorded?
Yes, the meeting is properly noticed, and as a reminder, it's being live streamed and recorded.
Should there's no sound somewhere. Is that online?
Say what you're saying.
Saying there was no sound.
Probably.
Just making sure that it's online too.
Test.
All right, welcome visitors. Got public comment?
Sure. Just read a statement regarding public comment. The board is continuing to include public comment in its agenda. Purpose of public comment period is to give the community members an opportunity to provide input directly to the school board about issues that fall within the school board's authority. Speakers are required to sign in on the sheet by providing name, affiliation with the district, if any, and agenda item their comment is intended to address. As a reminder, speakers may not engage in the following conduct and may be ruled out of order and be prohibited from making future public comment if they violate these rules. Speakers may not make allegations, charges, or complaints against any specific or identifiable student or employee. If a person wishes to make an allegation or file a charge or complaint against a student or employee, that person may make the allegation, charge, or complaint to the superintendent in writing or in a private meeting or to the individual designated by the district policy to receive the allegation, charge, or complaint. Speakers may not comment or gestures that are threatening, profane, lewd, vulgar, obscene, harassing, or abusive. Speakers may not make personal attacks against others, including but not limited to any student, parent, community member, employee, or board members. All comments need to be directed to the board president.
All right, first up is Jean Johnson.
Good evening. For those of you who may not know me, I am Jean Johnson, 6th grade language arts teacher. I've been a Panther since I walked in through the front doors of the elementary school into Mrs. Baker's classroom back in 1975. Since then, I have dedicated my time, career, and life to this district and the communities of Roberts and Hammond. My sister, brother, and I were raised by strong, hardworking, generous, fair, and faithful parents who instilled in us a sense of giving back, leading by example, helping those who need it, and most importantly, what is right and what is wrong. I am speaking today because over the past few months, there have been many people standing up to talk about what is wrong with our administration and our school board. They have done so at this microphone and on social media, repeatedly telling us that they only want to make sure the taxpayers and community members know what is happening in our district. They are doing this under the realm of evoking awareness. Well, I too would like to evoke some awareness. I can no longer sit back and watch these attacks and stay silent when I know it isn't the right thing to do. Just like attacking people and families in the name of standing up for others is not the right thing to do. Stating half-truths, insinuations, and incorrect information is not the right thing to do. Continuously attacking people and perpetuating their guilt because they legally are not allowed to defend themselves is not the right thing to do. And the list goes on and on. There is an old adage that says there are 3 sides to every story. Side 1, side 2, and the truth that lies somewhere in the middle. And I believe that wholeheartedly. However, there are people who would like all of us to believe that the truth only lies on one side. They are the ones speaking up and speaking up loudly. And what's worse, they are constantly implying that they are the voice of an army of former and current employees who have been wronged, who are disgruntled, or have been imprisoned in a perceived downfall of our district. Their implications are that we are all working each day in fear without an ability to vocalize our thoughts and concerns with our administration, or that we are blindly following a regime of dictatorship. I'm here to tell you, they are not my voice, nor the voice of many of my colleagues, as you can see. We are here today to demonstrate that. I can't stand here and tell you that I or others blindly agree with every policy and procedure we're asked to follow. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There are many ideas and decisions we may not agree on, but we are all allowed to have a voice. Have things changed in the district in the past 10 years? Absolutely. We as a district and a staff were asked to raise our standards, raise our expectations, and change the way we do business. Was this easy? Absolutely not. I can tell you that there are many changes that were extremely difficult for me, and I am not afraid to admit I struggled with those changes. And you can bet I was called into the office for conversations about that fact. However, at the end of the day, whether I or the rest of the staff agree or not with changes, we are expected to follow the policies and procedures implemented because that is our job. Not to do the things the way we want to do things or the way we've always done in the past, but the way we as a district have systemically put into place. And just because some may not want to believe in those changes or even implement those changes, it is a far cry from things going downhill in the district. While I do not always agree with every change myself, I have never once doubted the intentions of my administration, superintendent, or school board, nor their dedication to staff and students. And furthermore, these changes have absolutely made me a better educator. Maybe the better question should be why we would want to stay stagnant. Why shouldn't we embrace these changes? Why shouldn't we be asked as a staff and as employees to bring our best every day? And why shouldn't we address those that aren't, instead of simply keeping them in positions because they are veteran teachers? Longevity does not automatically equate effectiveness. But with that being said, I want you to know, knowing that the truth lies somewhere in the middle, that there are questions and concerns surrounding all of this that I have as well. Some people have brought up some questions that probably should be addressed at some point. I also would like explanations. The difference is I am willing to wait through the process and trust they will be answered. I'm not willing to attack the character and integrity of people unless I have answers that prove there is something to attack. I understand there are former and current teachers that feel persecuted. And while I sympathize with their hardships, I can't condone the way they are currently representing themselves. What started as a situation between a staff member and a district employee has turned into an attack on all admin and school board members and some employees as well. Who's the next under fire? And recently, some of those answers have surfaced, yet every single one is met with another excuse, another rebuttal, and loud explanations as to how they aren't the truth. Just because people don't like the proof doesn't mean it's not true. But instead, they grasp at straws, give you more half-truths, and redirect attention to non-issues that they are making issues by their insinuations of wrongdoing. At last month's meeting, a speaker stood at this microphone and insinuated some pretty hefty stuff, especially nepotism. But what she failed to give you beyond the insinuations is proof. Where is the proof of wrongdoing? Because I heard none. Yes, it is true. There is a school board member that is a middle school wrestling coach. She failed to let it be known that he has done so as a volunteer for the past 3 years, meaning the district does not pay him a dime to coach. In that time, he has committed some terrible crimes as coach, included, but not limited to, leading our middle school wrestlers to a team state championship and propelling our program to incredible heights with incredible numbers and successes, including great accolades from other area schools. Part of our mission and vision. The insinuation is that through his position, he was prompted to run for school board just because he's a wrestling guy. But where is the proof? Did you ask him why he decided to run before you insinuated that? Because I'm a wrestling person, and I was shocked when he threw his name into the hat. It is also true that we have had our district Christmas party at a local establishment. Yep, one of our board members is partial owner of that establishment. But where was it mentioned that we've done so the past 5 years? Long before he was a board member? Or was it brought up that as the largest of such establishments in our community, it is the only one that is big enough to house the entire district? I see it was also not just discussed that if you go back through the years and take a look at sponsors for various programs here at SCC, you will not fail to find that establishment's logo year after year after year. Is it wrong to support a community business that never fails to support our school and our community? Or does it make more sense to take that business elsewhere? The insinuation that the owner is only on the school board for us to hold this annual event or to be a yes man for admin, but nothing was said about his dedication to service, the volunteer work he does, the money he and his business partner give back to the community, or the events they host at this establishment to help community programs raise money. Did you know he also has an interest and history of getting involved in local government and has experience with such processes and protocols? He successfully held a position with the Village Board of Roberts and its Planning Board Committee for close to 15 years. I would think we would welcome someone with that kind of experience and prior knowledge. What has he done since he was sworn into the board to warrant being attacked? Where is the proof that he has failed to do anything beyond, or where is the proof that he has done anything questionable? The same can be said for the other businesses that they want you to believe are taking advantage of their positions on the school board for financial gain. Was it mentioned that one of them has provided a service for 10 long years, long before there was a connection to the board? They also have never failed to donate to our programs that need it. And the other business connected to a board member donates to the school. I don't see much financial gain there. And speaking of those Christmas parties, that speaker also stated blatantly that it was a district paid event, implying the taxpayers took on the cost, which is just straight up untrue. The district administrators pay for the event out of their own pockets. Moving on, where is the proof that allegedly forced resignations and non-renewals, and for the record, those are two very different things, were unwarranted? Teachers have no tenure. Teachers work on a year-to-year contract. Because of this, the school district absolutely has the right to non-renew a teacher at the end of the year if they choose. So are they being sent away, or are teachers being non-renewed? I have heard about the proof people say they have stating they were forced to leave, but has anyone seen it? And if they can't share it, and if the school does have evidence the non-renewals were warranted, legally they can't share it, which has people automatically assuming the district is hiding something. If they were forced out, that absolutely should be addressed. Honestly, I don't know if they were or weren't. What I do know is the reason I don't know is because there is a lack of evidence to convince me of wrongdoing at this time. Unlike those attacking our board and our administration, I will wait for evidence to be presented and make my own decisions without continuing to find people to attack simply to propel my own agenda. Another speaker brought up the inappropriateness of the hiring process of our current administration. Again, much was failed to be mentioned in that statement. The current administrator went through his first interview without the other administrator in question even sitting in on the interview. If he wasn't in on the interview, how did he influence the outcome? And furthermore, he recused his vote during the final process. And still, Mr. Johnson earned his position based off his merits and qualifications by an overwhelming majority. And beyond that, I ask, have the hirees in question, basically anyone related to admin or the wrestling program, not had the qualifications that are required to fulfill the roles they are in? Over their time as administration and in our classrooms, where is the proof that they are not doing their jobs? Did they not have the experience or history of being qualified employees in their past districts to warrant hiring them? Has anyone checked, or is it easier to throw them to the wolves simply because of their connections? Should we not hire someone that has proven themselves an extraordinary educator in other districts simply because they chose to come back home but happen to be related to someone else in the district? And yes, it is a common joke around town that you should be careful who you talk to because everyone is related in our small communities. While not necessarily 100% fact, it is true enough. I do have a big extended family. A number of them are employed at St. Croix Central. As family, why should it surprise anyone that we share the same ideals, beliefs, and values such as education, generosity, or community that lure us to the calling of education and working with children? And again, where is the proof that my family, both those by my blood and those of my choice, have committed wrongdoing that has destroyed our district simply because we are family? And quite honestly, throwing the loss of our mother in the mix, as well as our godchildren, is simply just vulgar. It is just another way to continue grasping at straws to try to find proof of wrongdoing where there isn't any. And yes, I am the villain that proofread newsletters for a former admin. something I do for other colleagues, former students, community members, and many, many more. I don't understand the issue with that. The assumptions that any connections with family and friends in the district, people we've known and grown up with since birth, automatically equates to misconduct, under the table deals, kickbacks, and wrongdoings is beyond understanding. Again, if there have been improprieties other than the fact that people are related, prove them. If anything, that connection that should be recognized is not nepotism, but a pride for the community we grew up in and the people who supported us here that makes us want to come back and be a part of SCC. We don't come home because we think we'll be favored. We come home because our love for this place makes us want to give back to it. And give back we do. I'm not implying my colleagues at SCC don't put forth their best every single day, because I know without a doubt they do. But there is a different kind of loyalty and pride in teaching in your hometown, teaching the children of your friends, and yes, even your family. The stakes just seem a little higher for us because we have undeniable ties that apply another level of expectation and standards for us. I would think you would want those kinds of people in our classrooms, in our schools, fighting for your children. And how do I even address the hatred spewed at a group of people simply because they are passionate about the same sport? Do you know what that passion equals? A booster club that has not only survived, but thrived for 35 years, and one that has given back to the entire school, not just the wrestling program, time and again. That passion also equals hard work, dedication to kids, long hours, and time away from family with not much compensation. But again, if a shared love of wrestling is so detrimental, prove to me that we don't work just as hard for any other sport or activity in this school. Show me the proof. Because people have thrown around the term wrestling school as if it's something to be ashamed of or that it's something distasteful. What it means to me is we have a group of hardworking, dedicated people who have successfully, time and time again, come together to do great things for the wrestling program, our school, and our communities. We have young men and women who have dedicated themselves and worked hard to hone their skills and their talents to find success and to represent this district positively, much like our students and athletes do in all of their other pursuits. It is ludicrous to me that we're being called out for dedicating ourselves to something we love, and for many of the people you are complaining about, something that has helped mold them into the people they are. Where were all the complaints through the years when the majority of our admin were all people who shared a passion for a different sport? It was thrown out last month that Tim Whitaker is in effect destroying SCC. Let's look at how he has done that. During one of his first staff meetings with us, Mr. Whitaker shared his vision of expanding the trades and creating a campus that produces and partners with the community. This vision has come to fruition with the expansion of our CTE department, not just minimally, but with the resources and technology that rivals and exceeds those of local community college campuses. Around 2018, he and the board challenged all of us to be a top 20 school by 2020. And he set us up with the tools and the resources and try and achieve that goal. He and the board implemented new standards, new expectations, and new challenges and pushed us to be the best educators we can be, causing us to consistently be a district that meets and exceeds state's expectations. Does that mean things changed in our classrooms and with our instruction? Absolutely. Did it challenge us and put us out of our comfort levels? It sure did. And even as hard as it was, even with all the struggles, I know I am a much better teacher because of it. Mr. Whitaker also implemented a yearly engagement survey for staff. We all get the opportunity every year to take that survey, which does ask us how we feel about our work, our admin, and our jobs. It is anonymous, yet still numbers are high. If things are so bad for staff here, why would that be? Let's talk about the staff that are currently working under Mr. Whitaker and our administration. Together, they have done amazing things, but the naysayers want you to believe that all anyone cares about is athletic success in our athletic programs. If that is true, why promote the arts with band trips to Florida and California and honors choir and band? Why create esports or trades programs? Why have we implemented capstone classes, online classes, and AP programs, as well as continue with a super successful virtual school? Why do we have so many parents from area communities choosing to come to SCC because of what we have to offer their children that other local schools don't? And I'm not just talking about academics or even athletics. I'm talking about culture and behaviors and the fact that we prioritize teaching the whole child, among other things. And maybe the numbers should speak for themselves. According to an online 2024 U.S. News and World Report, SCC ranked 35th in the state of Wisconsin out of 462 schools and ranked 1,342nd out of 17,655 schools nationally. That doesn't seem like destruction to me. All one needs to do is look at these posters on the wall. Since Mr. Whitaker became our superintendent, we are exceeding expectations. None of those things happen without strong leadership, and I believe in the strong leadership we have in Mr. Whitaker. I am fully aware that there are many people already willing to dismiss my thoughts, my feelings, and my message because of my relationships, my family, and evidently my love of a sport. And I guess that's their prerogative. I will await the attacks on social media, but I have worked in this district for 20 years, and I would hope my years of dedication and experiences as teacher at SCC and my own community involvement for the past 35 years would not be so easily discounted simply because of my last name or because I work with the wrestling program. I can't tell you how very blessed I am to have the friends, family, and wrestling relationships that I do. People that are generous with their time and money, people who pride themselves in giving back to the community, asking nothing in return, people who spend countless hours every day away from their families and friends to go above and beyond what is expected of them at their jobs. But obviously, some people won't acknowledge that, and maybe that's just because they can't recognize that kind of work ethic, dedication, and sacrifice. I am so disheartened by these last few months, not just a member of the Panther family, but also as someone who loves this community and the people in it. I started by telling you about the kind of people we were raised by. And throughout this all, one lesson of my dad's keeps rising to the surface. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. I implore you, members of the school board, staff, and administration, to remember this fact as you go through these tough times. But more importantly, I would ask that others in our community also stand up to be heard about their feelings and experiences with the people who have fallen under attack through this process. The outspoken minority and their toxic noise can't be the only statements out there. It is the voice of the community we need to hear, your voice to communicate what you know to be true about the people being misrepresented, your experiences to disprove the accusations being thrown around carelessly, because without that, they will continue. As I stated before, I don't know everything that is going on in the situations being thrown around, but until I have actual proof, not just suppositions and vendettas, I will fall back on what I know to be true, the character, integrity, and contributions of these individuals. It is my greatest hope that anyone listening will not only do the same, but they will also rise up and show everyone that the naysayers are not their voices either. Thank you for your time.
Next up is David Linsmeyer.
Thanks, everybody. Gene, you're tough to follow. Sure. I already got here earlier. Oh, sure.
Right here, David. I think this is it.
Thank you. Thanks, Gene. Got my back. Can you guys tell I'm nervous? My name is David Linsmeyer. I'm a school counselor at our elementary school. I've been a school counselor for 8 years total. 8 years that have all been here at SCC. And gosh, following that, Gene, seriously, not just by what you said and how you said it, but it was a good moment for me to recognize the veteran status of a lot of our staff. And in many ways, I feel like there's maybe more deserving people to be up here who could speak on behalf of their amazing experience here at SCC. And so what I'm hoping to do is represent our staff well, but also appeal to those still willing to listen, to understand what it's like to actually work here. And frankly, it's been a quick 8 years, but there's been improvement that I've seen, and I hope to help kind of defend what's been built and what's taken a long time to build. I'm going to start. Don't worry, I'm not recording. I trust that. I'm just going to have a timer going so I don't go too long. Over the last couple months, I'll be honest, I had my head in the sand a little bit. I don't have Facebook, I don't have Snapchat, I don't have Instagram, I have nothing. It's awesome that way. And that was a personal choice. many years ago, and it was another good reason, or all of this, seeing this come to light was another good reason to stay off of so many things. And in preparation for this, I did my best to just hear the other side of the story. I asked my wife for her Facebook profile. I joined a page, and I truly went there with the most fair intent, just to hear what other people thought and believed. And I do frankly think there are very fair questions, and there's very fair criticism that people in the community have. And like Jean said, I trust that a lot of that's going to come out. And in the meantime, I think a lot of people are drinking their own poison. They're finding ways to bring this community down in a way that's not actually helping them the way that they think it is. Case in point, you know, when I first started here 8 years ago, to be honest, if someone would have asked me, David, do you trust your kids with anybody that they are having, that they would have as a teacher? And though I think we have incredible staff, and we did at that time too, I don't know that I would have answered that question the same way I would answer that question right now. 8 years later, I've said it many times before, and I'll say it again. I've got 2 little ones at home, and listen, we don't teach kids, we raise them. And I would trust any of my kids with any of the teachers at the school that I work at or within the district. And I don't think there's a higher compliment that you could ever pay to the people who are helping teach your kids. But it's more than that. My family, we laid our roots here. We laid our foundation here. We made the decision to move into Hammond. And I don't think I had more of a proud moment than having a home bought in Hammond to be part of this school district. Now, as I speak today, I'm very nervous because the last thing I want to do is I don't want to condescend any community members who have those questions. I don't want to be a know-it-all just because I have the privilege of working within our walls. I think there's very fair questions and criticism, like I said. And I don't want to undermine those who have been through something that I wasn't a part of. There have been plenty of conversations over the years behind closed doors in rooms that I wasn't in, but the things that are being brought up aren't a reflection of my experience here. My experience here tells me to stay. Besides saying that this staff is the staff that I trust, I think maybe the most telling thing that I can also say about my feelings about this district is, you know, Jean brought up people moving back to their hometown. I set out to be a school counselor to move back to my hometown and pay back the teachers who helped raise me. That was my dream. That was my goal. I have been offered that dream 3 times. One time in which a superintendent called me and said, David, what do I got to do to get you here? And I declined it. There's no other reason to stay here than to be around amazing people and an amazing district. And it is very, very easy for any naysayers to sit behind an anonymous profile and say whatever they want in half-truths, like Jean said. So over the last couple of weeks, I did some of my homework. I watched back on board meetings. I looked on Facebook. I told myself and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to give myself one night to read through this. And after that, I just don't know what else is necessary for me to do. Boy, am I glad I only gave myself that one night. There was a lot of garbage on there, and I didn't have enough time to sort through the trash, to be honest with you. So there's a few things that have been brought up that I would like to maybe rebut or address. The number one thing is transparency. Listen, I tell teachers all the time, I work within the school, and there are times where I am surprised by what's going on down the hallway. The idea of full transparency in a district is something I don't think anyone can ever have, despite best intention. And added on top of that, whatever legalities there are, whatever legal counsel there is, I wouldn't expect any sort of board or administration to be able to give full transparency to an entire community on the spot. So my point is, people just need to be a little patient. Beyond that, Jean, you hit it on the head with the connections, the nepotism, the favoritism. I mean, I won't go into further detail about that, but I'll just give a prime example. I'm not from this town. I have zero relation to this town. I'm the 1% who's not related, Jean. I have zero relation here, but I can look at the board and point out connections I have. Derek, I coached your daughter in the fall. Erica, I coached your son this spring. Dave, Lance, I've had your kids be part of my caseload as a school counselor. My point is it's super easy to become connected. And if we want to easily take 2 different things in common and draw a conclusion to say that that's nepotism, I feel really bad for the people who are doing that. And I'm going to go ahead and venture to guess that maybe you are not involved enough if you are not easily connected to people in this town. Along with that has been this claim of high turnover due to bad supervisors. I struggle with that because I don't know how a person defines high turnover, and I don't know how a person defines a bad supervisor. Last I checked, I tried adding it up, and I would say well over half the people who have left in my time here had nothing to do with any sort of non-renewal or being let go. They had retired, they had better opportunities, their spouses had better opportunities, life moved on. That doesn't equate every turnover or every open position to be about a bad, quote, bad supervisor. But along with that, I have no idea how people are even, I have no idea how people are defining that bad supervisor. Again, I wasn't in the room, so I don't mean to undermine what people have been through. But frankly, and I'm going to speak so carefully here, but honestly, if you're not following curriculum, if you're not following master schedules, if you put in a request and it's denied, if you've been sent to training because your classroom management wasn't good enough, and you've been given these chances over and over and over, that does not equate to you having a bad supervisor. And frankly, if you think that, I don't know why you want to still be here. Like Jean said, there's a higher standard being set, and it's okay if you don't make that. But one of the hardest things about this whole conversation is I would consider a lot of people who are no longer at our school district, I would consider them friends. I would want to get a beer with them still. But there can be two truths at the same time. One, I consider you a great person. Two, you're not a good fit. And I think both of those are okay. Along with that, though, there seems to be this double standard at times. The most shocking thing that I saw was on Facebook. Someone said they were complaining about a student with a disability, claiming they should get kicked out of class. Then further down the post, they were willing to defend the adult that wasn't doing their job. The kid with the disability gets to get kicked out of class. The adult who is capable of not doing their job gets to stay. I know very, very good people in this community who are going to see how absurd that is. I'll kind of wrap up here. You know, I keep seeing all these solutions people calling for. Ironically, some of them are anonymous. I think one anonymous person, I think it was anonymous 709 or something. It was like, we should recall the whole school board. The next question, the next point. Does anybody know how to do that? Does anyone know who we should start with? That spoke volumes to me. People are calling out solutions that they don't fully understand. And more so, if you don't understand the full problem, you have no way of getting to the solution. And if you want to understand the problems, please, we are short on subs. We are short on referees. We don't have 100% parent-teacher conference attendance. It is awesome, but it's not 100%. I helped host 2 different parent education nights. Actually, I'll only take credit for one. Jenna did a lot of the other one. It wasn't packed. I think between those 2 nights, there was maybe 30 parents there. If you want to find ways to be part of the solution, these seats are not the only way that you can do that. And in fact, there's much more accessible, easier ways to do that. Callie, I'm sorry for what happened last time. I'm gonna be super frank with you. Anybody who attacks anybody's previous employment as not good enough is someone I'm not going to listen to. And I think a lot of people are going to say the same. I'm thankful to know there's plenty of people in the community who are going to go, what in the world was wrong with that? Keep up the good work. I've said this once, and I'll say it again. You are changing your family tree. Good for you. All right, I'm going to wrap up here, folks, but one last couple things. I had a friend say to me, I don't know how the district's going to come back from this, David. And here's, I guess, my answers. So teachers, staff, seek feedback. If you think admin are the only ones who are supposed to coach you, you're dead wrong. In fact, we don't even work for our admin. We work for our students. It's plain and simple. Go get feedback from your admin, your supervisors, your students, your coworkers, and your students' families. I promise you, you're probably going to have a pretty safe job. Number 2, trust your interactions and experiences. I said this originally to my staff members, and then it dawned on me just last night how much that applies to my community. I originally thought it was only about me relying on the people within the walls and trusting the experience and my interactions of the people within the walls. But I gained comfort coming here today because I know in my time as a school counselor, as a cross-country coach, as a track coach, as a former student council advisor, as a former SOS advisor, as a person who puts on the Veterans Day program, as someone who helps put on our Holiday Angels program to get gifts into families' houses each Christmas, I know from those experiences that there are a ton of good people here who are ready to step up and do exactly what's necessary. My last forewarning to the public, please, if you keep this up, you are going to put leverage into the hands of people who are not doing their job. Now, if you are somebody who voted against the referendum a few years ago, you should be right beside me saying the same exact thing. Because if you are upset about good teachers getting paid really, really well, I can't imagine how upset you would be over bad teachers keeping their jobs and getting paid really, really well. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, you check Callie and mute a few people who don't have it muted, please.
Next up, Amber and Dan Casey.
This. We're not parents that are not involved. We are very involved with our kids. We are at conferences. I'm actually a coach for my daughter's softball team. We are very involved in our community, and we are involved in everything that our kids are about here in this community. In fact, I can look here and I can say there are so many teachers in this room that have been wonderful to my kids. And I cannot thank you enough for being amazing educators.
Coaches as well.
And coaches and doing a fantastic job for our children. But I do have to point out, when policies are violated, when policies are not being used properly, things can happen. Kids can get hurt. And I don't like the fact that there was utter silence when it happened to my child. When I sent that email out, was I expecting any of you to take responsibility? No. But nobody reached out and said, is your child okay? That is not acceptable. And it speaks volumes of this entire board. Because when you violate policies, and I can tell you right here, you talked earlier, Jean, you talked about facts. I have a whole list of facts of what happened to my child. And a part of that, the violation of student safety, use of force, seclusion, restraint, student conduct, staff use of social media, administrative responsibilities, all of those policies were violated. Each and every one of them. And we can talk about neglect and negligence too. The failure to provide medical care for a student that was injured. Failing to report a violent assault to law enforcement. Failing to document and preserve evidence of a crime. Failing to prevent a repeat of assaulter to continue to have violent behaviors. Failing to protect the class from prior warnings from parents. Failing to address a well-documented pattern of aggression from the assailant. Failing to create a trauma-informed response or include appropriate staff during a post-incident interviews. But instead, you decided to interview my child without me present and nobody there to comfort her after the assault. That is not acceptable behavior. I'm not going online and I'm not talking about it. I'm here talking about it because this is unacceptable
Amber, I
behavior.
have no issue with you.
It's unacceptable.
This is
Please,
not.
please address the board.
No, I'm talking to
Please-
the
please
entire
do
room.
Address the board, please.
do you have anything else to add?
We have a lot here. I'm sure you've all read what was sent in the transcription about the whole event that took place on June 4th. And I'm sad about the whole situation. I wish things were conducted in a way where everybody can just be happy with the outcome and kids can be safer in the classroom.
And it could have been prevented. It could have been prevented, and that's the biggest problem. If policies would have been implemented and policies would have been used properly, in that situation, my daughter was assaulted twice in the same classroom. That second assault, the one that was worse, that could have actually been a serious event. If she would have turned her head or anything, she could have been struck in a vital point of her neck. That could have been prevented if policy would have been held and would have been, you have policies in place for a reason. And I also know SCC is considered a trauma-informed school. That means there are proper parameters to be trauma-informed. There's different safety procedures you guys are taught and gone over. I mean, there's so many different things that could have happened, and it didn't. And ultimately, the worst happened to my child. And I mean, I know that we're not supposed to talk about this you guys spoke earlier about not speaking about complaints.
Yeah, because we have a very detailed.
We have the entire
here.
complaint.
I know that you've all probably read it. It has names, dates, times, places that we can't allude to right now. It would be a lot easier for our explanation if we could. But
I think the best thing that I can say here too, but this is speaking on myself. I know that this isn't the first time we've dealt with an inaction and retaliatory behavior from the district. I've received it. I experienced it. I am a former parent professional.
Oh, no, it's not.
At St. From St. Croix Central's Elementary. I was
Great.
forced from my position after reporting that my children were being bullied in 2022. I made 3 separate reports of threats of bodily harm to school staff, including guidance counselors, director of student services, and principal. None of these reports were investigated. The bullying escalated. One of the students involved contacted my personal cell phone during school hours with an inappropriate text and a photo of a minor. I immediately reported it to the police, who confirmed it came from one of the students that was harassing my child. The following day, I requested a meeting with then principal Shelley Clay. Despite promising to develop a plan, she forced my child into a meeting with her bully. Against police guidance and without my consent, when I intervened, Mrs. Clay told my child, this is none of your mom's business. The next day, I was placed on administrative leave under false pretenses and never allowed to return. We did attempt back in August of 2022, on August 17th, to sit down with the board. We were promised a closed session meeting and a follow-up, which never occurred. Still, the board quietly revamped the anti-bullying policy later that summer. A clear sign that our concerns had merit, yet we were given no credit or closure. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where we don't feel that we were forced to make a formal complaint because things have happened and things have gotten out of control.
And it seems like things have transpired in an upward trajectory from small incidents to children being harmed in their class.
And I don't know, next year, how do I know that my child is not going to be in a situation where she is assaulted again? How do I feel comfortable? I don't know where to go from that. I'm scared for her. And I mean, she told me, she said, I felt interrogated by the staff that were there. She didn't feel comfortable. She didn't feel safe. And that breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. And I don't know where we go from there. I don't know how to ensure the safety of my children in this district when these things happen. Thank you.
Next up, Pete Newsbaum.
Must be older than Dave. I just have a few things I want to clarify, but I want to end with some comments about my experience with DC. I didn't write anything down because I didn't have time to get it to Gene to proofread, so I'm just gonna wing it. But there's a couple things I really want to clarify. But you know, I came to this district in 1989 from a small district, and very much like David. In a lot of ways, I was coming to get away for 3-5 years, and then I was going to go home and move back with my entire family. And we just had number 54 grandchild 2 days ago. But what I realized when I came here after a short time is what an amazing community we have here at St. Croix Central. Through all this stuff that's going on, that's my biggest concern. Believe me, PN's initials are all over the wonderful website, and I just don't want that to diminish what this school board, what Tim, but most importantly, what 90% of the community working with Tim Whitaker, working with Erica, working with Jeff, and almost 30 years of being on the school board, to be lost. You know, I go places, I travel with my kids to athletic events, and I hear, what on earth is going on over there? And you know what, I find myself spending most of my time is talking about all the great things we have going here. This year, as many of you know, I retired in August, and I've had the absolute pleasure to sub in all 3 buildings. And what I observe and what is going on is we have principals out front of the buildings, in the back of the buildings, before school, after school, greeting kids, greeting teachers, waving at parents. We have administrators in our buildings yet at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, folks. Go to another district when they're walking out at 3:30 and 3:45. You will never find more committed administrators. I had the absolute honor to work with all of them, and almost everyone I chose to move on, step down, because the person below me was capable and is doing so much better job than I could ever have done. We have amazing things going on at St. Croix Central. You look at our facilities, in 1989 I came, we had 1 building. It was down there. Our football players had to go get dressed, and our locker room was a grungy, full of mold, and probably shouldn't even disclose that, but it just wasn't pretty. And in that time, we are one of the few facilities that have 2 gyms in every building. We have incredible facilities for arts. We have 180 kids out in our building right now with a band, not even from our community. You talk about a welcoming board, a welcoming community. That's not happening everywhere. Not everybody's opening their arms and their doors. And here's the thing, Brad's probably donated 110 cases of water to that group. But I don't want it to be lost in regards to what this community and what it means for you to step up. I really, regardless of what your background is, whether it's in water or whether it's in a tavern, I applaud you for taking time away from your families Each and every one of you are here tonight where your families and your kids are somewhere else. And a lot of people that are taking the time being anonymous and doing all those things are sitting in the comfort of their homes next to the same children. But the other thing I really want to clarify, since my initials are a couple of the PN initials being thrown around quite a bit, I really want to clarify in regards to a majority of the teachers, I would probably even say most of them, left in my tenure as an administrator. And Tim Whitaker's name keeps getting thrown out as the guy, the person, the bully, the whatever. And I want it to be known that Tim Whitaker has never sat in a meeting with those people that are claiming that he's the one pushing them out the door. Mr. Nussbaum was sitting in those meetings almost all the time by himself or with his assistant principal. And only once or twice has Tim sat next to me in those meetings. So if anything Tim Whitaker is guilty of is supporting his administrators. And I cannot blame Tim Whitaker for that because he knows that we have the students' best interests in mind when we walk in those classrooms. And I just want it to be known that if people want to point fingers at me, have fun. You know, not just because I'm retired, but I will sit and have a conversation with anybody that wants to have a conversation with the teacher that left. I truly will. But what I really want to end with is that if you're out in the community and you're jumping on these websites and you're wondering what's going on, I challenge you to get in the car and drive. Drive to our amazing elementary and look at the job our building and grounds people are doing now. And the facilities, the playground, the gyms, the buildings. Go there before school and go there after school. Today, don't tell my wife, I was actually at the Chevy truck dealer today, and I was sitting there. And the individual ended up being a parent of a child in the elementary that moved here 5 years ago. And he says, I don't know Mrs. Clay very well, but I could not believe that 2 weeks before the end of the school year, I have two students in second grade and in kindergarten. And I pulled up and she said, are you here to pick up? And he told me his two boys' names. He could not believe, A, that there was a principal up front, but B, that principal knew his two boys. I don't know, that doesn't sound like someone that is out to push people out the door, but someone that truly knows their kids and love their kids. Folks, get in a car, drive to the buildings, look at the teachers, look at the principals interact. Look at the opportunities our kids have. Drive back 1.5 hours back to my hometown when they're closing the middle school and moving them all to the high school because A, their enrollment's down, but they just don't have the money to provide the education in the two buildings anymore. I am so proud of this community. Jeff, Erica, Tim, the board, all you guys, I applaud you, Brad, all you guys jumping on as new board members. You have a tough job to follow because the people ahead of you that left have left a legacy. And Jeff, you're leaving a legacy. Erica, you know, you've got a business and you're still coming and sitting in that chair. And I applaud you guys. I thank you guys. But I just want everybody to know what an amazing community we have. And please don't let that one website and a few disgruntled people impact what we truly have. And I'm not giving the teachers all the credit. I'm not giving Tim and the board all the credit. But it's this incredible community and the opportunities that they've given us by voting yes with the leadership of Tim and the school board. With that being said, I want to leave because I know I don't know if the 8th grade team will ever get up here to present about the DC. But 2 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of going as a chaperone on the DC trip with the 8th graders. And I'm going to tell you folks, what an incredible experience. I went 20 years ago when Miss Stansbury was an 8th grader. That should tell you how long ago it was. And compared to 20 years ago with the job that Luke Fritchie, Jeremy Gibson, Pat Hook, Taylor Moe, Maria Paulson, and I'm blinking. There's quite a few more 8th grade teachers I'm thinking about. Dee Dee Koss, Dee Dee was there. We got on that bus, and by the time we got to Gettysburg, Luke and his team had everything laid out. Folks, we spent 5 days in DC. David, you were there, right? No? Oh, but was your child there? No.
Derek's was.
Who?
Derek's.
Oh, yeah. But it was so laid out. It was the job that those 8th grade teachers and Luke Fritchie did, folks, it was absolutely incredible. As a chaperone, I knew before we got on the bus, Brad, you were there last year. It's lockstep. And, you know, you talk about experience. We had 4 buses pull up to the Washington Capitol or the Nationals game. And we had 4 buses loaded and back at the hotel within a half hour after that game. I mean, they should be applauded. And to see them interact, they don't go there as a job. They go there as a team, and they interact with the kids, and it's so positive. And I'm telling you, folks, if you get the opportunity, go on that trip. But that 8th grade team should absolutely be applauded for the experience that I had and those kids had 2 weeks ago. But I just want to end with a thank you to all you choosing to sit in those chairs away from your spouses, your families, the commitment. And we all know there's not a whole lot of pats in the back, but there sure is a lot of kicks in the butt. But just please know how much I appreciate you as a community member, because when I drive around, holy cow, we have a lot to be proud of. So thank you all.
I'm not gonna speak, so Annette, you're up. Annette Shallow.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annette Challa. Most of you in front of and behind me know who I am. I've had the privilege of having some of you as coaches and teachers myself, and some of you have done a phenomenal job with my kids in this district. Again, I am one that returned home, although not related. I understand the feel. And the past few months have been really hard. And I've sat and I've listened and I've wondered what I'm supposed to do. Some of you probably remember I did run for a board seat a year and a half ago now or something. This past winter, I chose not to again. I was coaching my daughter's hockey team at the time, and I said, man, this is a lot more fun than being on a board. I think I'll stay right here and I'll coach some more. That said, the current culture of our district is making it really hard to live up to our district's vision. I don't know when someone searches St. Croix Central right now, how we are going to continue to attract and retain the talent behind me, the phenomenal teachers and staff that we have. And we're trying to do that in face of declining enrollment and some of the budgets that we have. So my hope and prayer is that this situation is done sooner rather than later, because that truly is the best interest for our students. And the whole purpose of our schools is to serve our students, to make them become great people through what's happening in the classroom, through what's happening in extracurriculars. I did spend some time on the planning committee a few years ago. I voted yes myself. I said we should do this. I encouraged others to vote yes. I was pretty willing to put my name out there. That said, I was really shocked through some of the accusations by people that admin's just trying to pad their pockets through some of this. And those allegations were shot down. We were told, no, this is to pay our teachers. So it's really disheartening when a bonus was awarded that could have hired a teacher for almost an entire year. And that's about all I can say on that, is it was really disheartening. Not saying right or wrong, I don't sit at your seat, but to me, that feels like not necessarily students first. And it feels like we had some sort of wool put over our eyes as we sat through that process and were told this is for the students, this is for the teachers, not for the admin. Because there's admin sitting behind me that said, I don't need to be paid anymore. And I fully believe that that was their stance on it and still is today. So my third point on my big sheet of notes, can't keep up to Jean, was the small town culture. Man, our small town culture is what it is. There's good and there's bad to both. When I talked to RJ Dilcher during the open house of something I'm very happy we have at our school, I'm impressed. I'm thrilled to say we offer that opportunity to our students. I'm glad I voted yes for it. When I got the opportunity to chat with him for a minute, because I had never personally spoke to RJ, I loved what he had to say. His passion and what he had to say about the small town culture. And the fact that he said, yeah, I could have stayed in another district, but it wasn't the district that meant something to me because it's not where my kids were and it's not where I want to leave my imprint for forever. I get that. We've got a whole bunch of cows at our place. We can't move our cows. We're kind of stuck here. We're not, but kind of, we're not planning on moving them. The small town culture is what it is. People can call it a good old boys club. There is absolutely some of that in a small town. Sometimes that's a really good thing. The problem is when it gets to the point of it truly is the club and others aren't being heard. Everyone needs to be heard. And when I can sit down with a previous teacher with a stack of books on their counter, when they're not educating anymore, still teaching themselves how to be a better educator, and they leave saying, I never felt like I was heard. That's the flip side. That's the sad side of a small town. If you're not in and you feel like you're not in and you're not heard, nobody wants to be there. But I love our small town. I want to be here and I want to get back to the culture of our students get to come first. My personal interactions with the school, with my kids, have been great. Great teachers. There's been things that, yeah, I'm like, that one probably should have been dealt differently. I'm not sure that's really the culture we want to go to. It's not perfect and flawless, but overall it's been really good. But I want the focus to get back on the students. And unfortunately, I feel like we're at a place where that's either going to take a thank you and a recognition that our current superintendent has done some phenomenal things while he's been here. And I do thank you for that. But either a recognition that I've done some good things, and in order for the students to be first, it's time for me to resign and move on. Or in order to appease the masses, if nothing else, but for voices to feel heard, we should be holding someone to the same thing he would hold his subordinates to. And if there should be a leave placed while an investigation occurs. And if there's no wrongdoing, great. Get the investigation over, bring him back. Let's get back to the mission of educating students. But all this drama, all this everything going on is not allowing that to happen. So I thank everyone in these seats for the same time that Pete was talking about. It's a lot of time. We're doing really good things as a district. I thank Mr. Whitaker for what he's done with some of the referendums. I think the teachers, staff behind me, especially the ones that have had my kids, and I just love what they've been able to do and bring out of them. But I hope there can be some resolution that allows the focus to be put back on the kids. Thank you.
She was the last one for public comment that signed up. So thank you all. Next up is comments by board members and superintendent. Is the graduation recap. Me and I that were there.
Yep, we were there.
We were.
Nice. Yep.
Be proud.
Yeah. It was wonderful. Do you have any issue with fitting everybody in there? No. So, there was like, you actually commented there were some spots open.
I received a number of people who commented on allowing the virtual students to walk. This extended the graduation longer, but it was really, I think, people that were there with us in seats kids thought it was a really cool thing that those kids worked hard and deserved celebration of graduation.
That's a lot of effort planning. So again, just want to recognize, thank all the staff involved in that. There are many, to make ceremony that's formal, yet has a personal touch, right? I think it's just a really good mix. And yeah, that was the largest class to walk across the stage and get their diplomas. And yeah, we had enough space in the facility, but like everybody involved, from controlling the temperature, right, to the lights, to the video, to all the details, to make it special for the graduates and their families. Just want to recognize those people. It was perfect.
I was disappointed when they moved scholarships to a different night, but I think those kids now are getting their own special evening, and the graduation would have been twice as long if all those names were called out. So I think just nice way to celebrate kids and allow grandparents and parents to shine and be proud of their kids. It's a cool thing.
Next up, we have scheduled presentations by guests and staff members. We've got the Teen Center overview, Hudson YMCA Community Program Director, yes, at April. And then I see Chris Koss.
Thought you were going to be anonymous, didn't you?
Told me, he's like, he's not on my list.
I'm just flyer for people, there's plenty.
Not quite as tall as the last couple of people. I was getting nervous about the huge crowd, but feeling a little bit better now. So I'll start by just introducing myself. Chris and I have gone through some history of us in the school board and what we all have done, and we have not been in front of you guys for at least 10 years, probably looking at more like 15 and might even be longer than that. So my name is Cassie Aythorpe. My title at the YMCA is Community Program Director, and it's a fancy way to say I oversee all of our teen programs. So that includes our teen center that we have here at the middle school. We have a teen center right behind the YMCA in Hudson, a skate park, and then several large youth programs, including Youth Action Hudson, which we'll get into here a little bit. So I wanted to take some time. I could probably spend another hour up here talking about everything we do, but I'm not gonna do that. So instead, I'm going to summarize, and please, if we have questions, feel free to ask, and we'll just kind of share where we're at right now. So I'm incredibly grateful, one, that you welcomed me in front of this board. My work at St. Croix Central is one of my favorite parts. Don't let the Hudson kids hear that, but the St. Croix Central kids know that I truly love being able to run YMCA programming out of the middle school. So the biggest thing that we do at St. Croix Central is run our teen center. So we're open from 3:15 to 3:20, depending on when the kids all get there, until 6 o'clock every day, except we usually take the day right before big breaks off just because we don't have a ton of students come in. And it's free for families. You don't have to register. It is drop-in care. And the idea is that it's supervised time for middle schoolers to exist in a safe and welcoming space. So if you have a middle schooler, you're probably aware if they go to a public park, they probably get yelled at because that's meant for little kids. If they walk around Target alone, they probably get yelled at because that's more for adults. Where's your parent at? So the whole goal at the Y is making spaces that are inclusive for middle schoolers specifically. They find it hard to fit in just about anywhere they go. This year alone, we had 2,780 visits to the teen center. We averaged about 22 kids a day after school. A little comparison. So I started working with the Y in this role about 4.5 years ago, but prior to that, I worked as a part-time staff member through the YMCA Youth Development Program. So I started at SCC in 2017. So I have been in the middle school for a while. I've watched a lot of kids graduate. They're not afraid to come back and tell me how old I'm starting to get. And I just keep trying to tell them I get younger each year. But in 2017, we averaged 11 kids a day. So when I would get there with my coworker, we would open up shop. We'd have, 7 to 11 kids each day. Most of the time we weren't even around for the activity bus because the kids would get picked up by then. But since then, our numbers have exploded. 22 kids, that's 3 staff members after school for us, just so that they have a safe space. We have our own room and our own concession stand, which I'll talk about concession stand in a little bit because we took a unique spin on it this year, that the kids come, they sign into. We do have a little code of conduct that we ask the kids to fill out so that we can contact parents and such as needed. But then we work with the athletic programs and other spaces to use space in the middle school. So we generally get a gym. Winter gets a little bit tougher with all of the basketball and stuff going on. But we try our best to get that spaces. We've used the FCE room for cooking. We really use everything that St. Croix Central has to offer us just to make sure that kids have something to do after school and stay busy. With our concession stand, so we sell concessions, huge moneymaker. Just kidding. We sell them for like $1 a piece after school. But really cool this year, we started what we call a leaders club. And I have 9 7th and 8th graders, now 8th and 9th graders, that work the concession stand after school. So they come in and they clock in for their shift. They write on a little timesheet when they start working, and they're in charge of selling concessions for us. And the whole idea is just giving them a little bit more responsibility within the teen center. Since we have that like 5th and 6th grade younger students, it sets them apart and gives them a role of like, yeah, like I'm here to do something. And for every 30 minutes that they volunteer with us, they get a point, and then they can cash in their points for different stuff. So like 3 points equals a Capri Sun or a bag of Cheez-Its, all the way up to 50 points gets them a Lego set. So we have some kids that have committed a lot of hours. And by that, I mean the school year was 215 hours of volunteer work by those 7th and 8th grade students. So really, really fun to see them grow and like learn how to count money, and like customer service is always an interesting thing with middle schoolers. So no, please don't throw the Cheez-Its at the 5th graders and all that fun stuff. But so we have those going on after school. Once a month, we run what we call teen nights. If you're not familiar with them, we're open from 7 to 9:30. And the whole goal is, again, creating a space for middle schoolers to come and hang out. We know Hammond pretty well. I live in Roberts. I know that pretty well as well. There's not a lot to do for a 12-year-old in Hammond at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, unless it's a football game. I will say I intentionally don't schedule teen nights on home football games, because nobody will show up. But they generally average between 50 and 60 students each night. I charge the kids $1 to get in, and that's usually to get them either like a free ice cream bar, or we do a lot of root beer floats at the end of the night just so that they have, you know, a little something fun to go home with. And this year, for the first time, we also offered a dinner. So if kids wanted to stay after school from 3:15 to 6 o'clock, and then from 6 to 7 o'clock for a teen night, they were able to. And we gave them pizza, a bag of chips, applesauce, and a Capri Sun or lemonade for the night, just so that they're not living off of Doritos and Hershey bars for the whole evening. But that was a huge success. We averaged 8 to 10 kiddos at that. I think our busiest one, we had 22 kids stay after school with us one day just to eat dinner and then go to teen night. We also have our summer programming, so that's going on right now. So I don't have the numbers for that for this year, but we average between 25 and 40 students, 5th through 8th grade, and we run program from 11:40 to 5 o'clock after summer school in June, so that parents have a place for their kids to be if they aren't able to transport them after summer school. So there we have more structured events. So the teen center, it's a lot of unstructured time. They have the option to do foosball, some video games. They have, you know, access to the gym. But in the summer, it's more structured. We do more like, hey, we're going to do a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, or we're going to go in the teen center and make a craft together. They kind of have to choose more structured time, just because 5 hours of unstructured time is a lot of unstructured time. So we do a little bit more there. This year we had 29 students register. So if you're at the middle school after summer school one of these days, feel free to stop by. They're all hanging out either in the teen center or the small gym there, rocking out. So that's a ton of fun. And then 2 really large programs that have exploded in the last 2 years, I would say, are our Youth in Government and Model United Nations. I saw some of our old Model United Nations pictures pop up on the screen while I was waiting. But those are 2 conferences. Youth in Government is a 4-day conference where students take on the role of being representatives, lawyers, media, everything to do with our local government. We fill the Capitol, like they get to go sit in the seats where the legislators sit, stuttering a little bit with some nerves. But it's a mock government that they get to do for 4 days. Model United Nations is a 3-day conference that we take students to, and there they choose a country and they go and they debate world topics. So like one of our world topics that these young people were debating was AI use in military. Like, should we be able to do that? And one of them was like Togo, Africa, and then the other one was Canada, and they were deciding what they should do together. So a really cool way for them to like learn different perspectives, world perspectives, and kind of like how to debate with each other. The really cool thing about that program is with some of the grant dollars that St. Christ Central gives us, we pay off a huge chunk, over 50% of their fees to attend those conferences. So for example, this year, Youth in Government costs $559 for most students. All SCC students went for $200 or less. What I've been able to work on with Chris over here is if I throw that number of $200, if that number is way too high for families, which we know it is because 5 students took advantage of this next part, the YMCA discounts it additionally. So we want to make sure that SCC students are able to get there and not be concerned about the financial side of things. Model United Nations this year was $459 for students to go. And again, all St. Christ Central students went for $200. Overall, it was right around $9,000 worth of scholarships that we gave to SCC students to attend. And it's really cool for me to get to sit in meetings with all of these other delegation directors. That's the title they give us to take these students to a conference and share like, yeah, St. Christ Central pays for these students. So like, how did you get 15 7th and 8th graders to this conference? Well, the school district helps pay for it. And it's kind of leading the way for other districts in Minnesota to do the same thing. So I want to thank you for that opportunity because it is not something that a lot of the students that attend those conferences get to go or get to do. And on top of that, it is really hard because I also take students from Hudson and Spring Valley and New Richmond, and they don't get the same benefit that our St. Christ Central students do. And because of that, my delegation is 80% St. Christ Central students. So huge shout out to the district for allowing us to be able to do that. And it does make it way more accessible for families to attend. The last kind of like big program I want to talk about that we do at St. Christ Central is within our teen center. I hire St. Christ Central high schoolers to help me work that teen center. So we have one coordinator on shift throughout the day. So that's somebody that's 21 plus, make sure we have an adult in the building, and then 2 high school students. So they get the opportunity, it's a paid position for them to come in. The biggest thing I think they would all agree that they learn is patience, working with middle schoolers. And maybe just like, oh, okay, we can all breathe a little bit and take a step back. But right now I have 6 St. Christ Central high schoolers on staff. They take turns of when they're working. Sometimes we have to be really flexible because they're involved in band and choir and softball and all sorts of things. But most of the staffing dollars that we have go directly back to St. Christ Central high school students, which is not something that we used to do. So I'm kind of like proud to share that we've been able to do that over the last 4 years. I will super quickly go over, and I haven't printed out here, so I don't know if we want to share eventually this flyer. I can share it out too. Some of our budget overview. The big thing being, since we haven't been in front of all of you, we have not seen a raise of our grant dollars since at least 2010 that we've received from St. Christ Central School District. So we've received $35,000 each year to do what we do, and we've made it work. And I'm coming to you because this was the first year that we weren't able to make it work. With the increase of SCC students going to going to Youth in Government and Model United Nations, as well as the fact I'm not going to pay high schoolers $7.25 to work for me. They get paid a competitive wage. So what that is in the Twin Cities, which is what the YMCA is a part of, is $16 an hour. So all of my high schoolers start at $16 an hour for like a 2.5-hour shift, multiple times a week. So we are at a spot where it's costing us more to run our St. Christ Central programs than it is for us. It's costing us more than what we are getting in. And the number that you see on here of expense also isn't including anything that goes to my salary or anything that I oversee or anything that Chris offers me supervision on or anything like that. So I crunched the numbers, and of the $35,000, almost $20,000 goes directly back to our SCC families and high school students through the staffing programs and through Youth in Government and Model United Nations. I want to make sure that I get everything on here as well. I did include some parent statements on the back. I had asked some of the kids, and as wonderful as their statements are, I wanted some impactful ones from parents as well. And one that I want to highlight is he's now going to be a freshman in high school. He is in both of our Model United Nations and Youth in Government programs. And so he's been to 3 conferences in total. You can go to Model United Nations as a 7th grader. You can start Youth in Government as an 8th grader. So he has his 3rd year, and he came up to me at our last Model United Nations conference, and he says, Cassie, I want to be a part of the media program, which means that he gets to go around, he gets to interview other students. We have like a podcast and a YouTube channel and an Instagram. And he's like, that's what I want to do. Like, how do I do that? I'm only an 8th grader. And I went to Molly Diaz, who is a St. Croix Central alum. She graduated, I believe, 2019, if I remember right, who is this year was the Undersecretary General of that conference, which she got started in as a 7th grader at SCC and continued until now. I think she's 24 and finally has to step back from like running the conference. But I went to her, I was like, hey, how do we get him connected? And she's like, oh, just walk him into that room. And I walked him into that room, and from there, he got to write his own newspaper entry. He was featured on not only our Instagram, but also the newspaper, and kind of set him up for success for next year. So really cool way that SEC students are getting involved and connected super quickly at these conferences. And then there was another parent that had shared just how her student has a little bit of social anxiety in getting out of the house. They're not involved in sports. They're not involved in play. So their social life is the teen center. And we've given them the opportunity to sell concessions and kind of have a place to fit in where maybe they haven't fit in other places. So that's my quick summary. I want to leave time if we have questions. I don't know exactly how board policy works unless it's just like youth and government. Oh yeah, thank you. I would also like to give a huge kudos to Chance and Jackie in the back. Their support of our programs is astronomical, from behavior to space to everything. Thank you. Thank you. We couldn't do it without the 2 of them. So, and many of the teachers and everyone that we see in the building after school, and right, they accept my staff with loving arms. So I really, really appreciate that.
Cassie, I don't remember when we started this program, but this will date a little bit. I was on the board, president of the Y board, and Tom Holland was the director of the Y. That's how long ago that we started this after-school program. And I'm not sure that the 35,000 has ever been changed. I think that's how much we started 25 years ago, and I don't think it's ever been
It was
changed.
2006, 2004,
Yeah.
around that time.
Yeah, 20 years ago. So it's been a great program. It's a great, I mean, at the time, it was like, there's nobody better than the YMCA helping middle school kids in a non-formal education thing. And it's been a great partnership. And I think we need to raise your fee a little bit. I mean, it comes from tax dollars, but it doesn't come from our fixed levy. It comes in what's called Fund 80, that at the annual meeting, the community can adjust. And do you have a number that you would prefer?
$50,000 is what we've shared. I think our biggest thing as we come to you is we're at a spot of we might have to tell kids no, or I have to stop promoting, or I have to start cutting. And that's the last thing that I want to do to a growing program. So I just had all these 7th and 8th graders full of excitement going to these conferences and everything, and I'd love to continue it on. One thing that I didn't share is a really successful program that we started in Hudson that I would love to bring to St. Croix Central. It just, again, comes to, right, a little bit of manpower and some financial support, which would be included in this increase of our grant dollars. But we have a program called Youth Action. We'd have to change the title a little bit. Right now, our kids call it Youth Action Hudson. Yeah, they might have to call it Youth Action St. Croix Central and maybe YAS instead of YA. But it's a youth-led volunteer program. Right now I have 125 Hudson High School students enrolled in it. In the 2024-2025 school year, they did just shy of 3,000 hours between all of them. And students who participate and have over 250 volunteer hours receive a $1,000 scholarship from the YMCA and from Youth Action, from our donors, to go to secondary education. So this year, I think we're awarding $6,000 to students who were hit 250. Actually, one of our students hit 500 hours in 4 years. So just really, really cool work. And I know it's something that we can replicate at St. Croix Central. I only say that because we were at an event. Well, I wasn't at an event. Chris was at an event 2 weekends ago, and a young person showed up, and he just assumed it was a Youth Action Hudson kiddo, welcomed them in, like, yeah, you're working with us, after talking. No, she's going to be a senior at St. Croix Central. She knows me from the teen center, so it was a nice little connection. But she's already part of YA. Joined our Slack group, started signing up for events and stuff. So I know we can replicate it. I stole some of my staff members for events last year. And I know the community around here would really support young people volunteering. I don't think there's a better way to teach young people just like gratitude and service rather than giving back to their communities. So yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
That's all I have. All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Great. Next up is curriculum advisory year-end review with Nicole and Cassie Evans.
Hello.
Did you think she's
Don't
diesel?
worry. No, I can get called that though. She's gonna be doing most of the talking, Eric. So.
Did you share it with me?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, I've come a couple times this year, and last year I came to speak about the curriculum advisory, and that's what we're here to do today, kind of give you a rundown of what this team has been up to over the past year. So once we get this pulled up, I'm gonna do a brief introduction, and then I'm gonna let Cassie kind of take it away. All right, you can go to the next slide, please. So this is our team. Just a reminder, all of the people on this team applied last year. We had, I believe it was 17 people apply for the 6 positions. And the goal when selecting was really to get different grade levels and different content areas that people had a specialty in. We didn't want this to be a secondary ELA committee or a math only committee. So you can see that we've got kindergarten, 2nd, 6th, 7th, high school social studies, and science, along with myself as the facilitator of the team. It's a very dynamic team and a very educated in the experts in their content area across the board. So it's been really fun to dig into this stuff with this team throughout the year. So this is a little bit about why we did this, and I presented this last year, so I'm not going to read it word for word, but long and short-term planning goals, develop effective structures for practices and procedures, and Cassie's going to go into some of that. And really a big part of this, which I'm super proud of, and I hope that they are as well, is we've created another 6 curriculum leaders in our district that when we're passing things or creating policies, protocols, doing implementation or adoption, we now have 6 people that can be the voice of the teachers in the classrooms when these things are coming out. So not only are they hearing it from me and their principals, but they're also hearing it from people who are walking the walk just like they are, right? That have helped create some of these policies and procedures. So these are just our team commitments, excuse me. Every team has them, but I think ours was special too because we wanted people to second bullet, be vulnerable, open to learning things. Oftentimes we're experts in our content in our classroom, and we wanted the members of this team to think big picture, more than just 6th grade ELA or more than high school math. We wanted you to think, how is this going to work for a high school CTE classroom? How is this going to work for a 4K teacher? So a lot of the discussions that we had were wrapped around, okay, that makes sense for your picture. How does it look for other people in different roles throughout the district? We wanted professional conflict and discussion. I'll tell you right now, I got some really good feedback. We always talked about feedback that we got from professional development days. And it was great because I took those, we brought them back to the admin team, and we changed some things. So it was wonderful to get that. Be prepared with tasks completed. There was always work between our meetings that team members were expected to work on. Sometimes it was just researching resources that they were given. Everybody was always well prepared when they came back, and we assigned roles. So just like any well-qualified team that gets things done, everybody had a role on the team. and then share only what we've decided as a team. And this wasn't, again, like it says, to be confidential or secretive. It was because we didn't want people to get partial messages. We wanted to wait until we had made decisions, so things had been finalized. The curriculum review that I shared last month is a great example of that. Until it was finalized with the proper pieces that are now actually done, we worked on that this last week. We didn't want it to get out and think that that's the way that it was going to be done until it was actually finalized. So. All right.
Okay, so I had applied for this advisory board to just gain knowledge around curriculum as a whole because it was something I wanted to continue learning about. Dee stated many times during our meetings that these were just tasks that she could do on her own, yet she wanted to collaborate as a district. And this not only opened my eyes for many pieces, but my eyes when we talked with the middle and high school teachers, like, oh, wow, that is very different across the schools in good ways and negative ways and things where we can grow and all of the ways like that too. Us members gained knowledge throughout this whole process. So we met 5 times throughout the school year, and meetings were really organized in 3 different ways: an investigation, learning, and collaboration. During the investigation piece, we brought new ideas or ideas from previous meetings, kind of like our homework piece to discuss. And then we moved into the learning section where Dee was presenting on new topics or new ideas or new tasks to be completed. And lastly, the collaboration piece, which was a bulk of our time together. And we worked to brainstorm, learn, and plan various tasks throughout the year. In August and September, our homework or our investigation was to look through 15 sites. We could pick a couple that Dee had expertise on, so that we could have knowledge and understand what we were going to be doing for that day. And then we also made a list of district needs and narrowed down that list of things that we wanted to accomplish throughout the school year. You could change it. We met again in October. We shared from our online resources, and it was very interesting because we all chose a variety of resources, kind of unplanned, but this was also cool to see the difference of what people wanted to know more about and difference between schools wanting to know more about those certain topics. We looked at the magnitude of change, if you want to go one more. Which led us into the draft ideas for the resource and standards review cycle, so that technical side and that adaptive side. One more. We met again in November. We shared that curriculum review cycle with our BLT teams, which was very eye-opening for me because I am not one to stand in front of people. So we were back at our schools sharing to BLT teams as well as school-wide, kind of our expertise of what we had learned through the curriculum process. We researched other districts' curriculum pages, and then we took a deeper dive into the phases of the review cycle, which brings us to January. Stacy had joined us to collaborate ideas for the curriculum and instruction webpage. After looking at other schools, we were able to give feedback of changes, growth areas, or things that we really liked. We also completed the final draft of the curriculum review cycle. And then if you want to change to one more, this is the Noster model to understand the importance of really all pieces. And it was interesting to see throughout the different schools which perspectives we had in pieces that were missing, not only in what we were creating, but different parts of our own teaching as well. Lastly, we met in June and reviewed the grades 5 through 12 collaboration day, but the bulk of our work was finalizing the curriculum review cycle and creating a flow chart for future piloting curriculums. And then lastly, some goals and tasks for next year is to continue being curriculum leaders within our buildings. Not that we know everything after 1 year, but know that we have more knowledge and more knowledge to share, as well as continue learning throughout the year. Support staff and through the curriculum review cycle, as there might need to be tweaks or things that we make along the way, as well as share and explore new resources with Dee throughout the year. So this is just one more piece that I truly believe makes SCC such a good place to be, working together district-wide to do what is best for our students. So, any questions?
So I have a comment. This is what I thought we were paying Dee to do. And I really like that she's involved, because I think each building's gonna own it a little bit better if you've helped build it, and drawing on her expertise and guidance. But this is really amazing stuff.
And this group will look a little bit different next year. So this is one of the pieces that in our planning, we are taking to a not compensated piece next year, but everybody on the team has said that they would be willing to meet virtually so that we can continue to just bring some of those big pieces. If we have something rolling out, so I know next year for sure what science is up first to go through that whole process. So as we roll these tasks out in the buildings, they will be leadership or learning leaders in their buildings to help disseminate that information. So that was wonderful.
Are all members of the committee required to wear the same uniform?
Not even
Think
planned.
alike.
We got the jean jacket gang here.
I would like to see Mitch in a jean.
Thank you.
I want, I like images like that,
Cool.
that kind of tell a good story. What is the, and then maybe you're not far enough, but the most common missing box at times in this and in trying to, evaluate.
With our team or just overall?
Just with the district overall.
So this is something where I got it from NERD, National Institute of Research. And there's obviously an N, but I don't remember what the N stands for. But this was something that I had gotten from NERD through CISA at my time there as a consultant. And it really depends on what you're working on and what district. You could have this in 3 different buildings, have 3 different things. So I don't think we specifically got into what we see overall in our district, but it was interesting because everybody had talked about experiences that they had had with one of those pieces missing. And so that was just a little piece that we shared, because it is true. If you don't have one of those things, it can be hard to get things past those challenges. So, yeah.
And is it predictive if you're sensing frustration that you go backwards, and sure enough, we are lacking in resources?
Mhm.
I mean, does it work that way too?
Absolutely. And this is where you look at the feedback that you're getting from maybe new resource adoption. So Bridges at the elementary school, for example. Kelsey's in here. She's done a lot of work with getting feedback from teachers, and we've done a couple of surveys this year, and you can see where frustration might be coming, or resistance, right? Resistance, that if you don't have, this one says incentives, but I would also beg that vision. If you don't have those things in line, that's why you always start with vision. You always start with the why. You always start with a team. It's never just top down, this is what we're doing, right? You want to get as many voices heard and part of the decision-making processes as possible.
Awesome.
Nice work. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up is the financial reports by Dave.
As of May 31st, 2025, the balance in our checking account was $1,674,399.82. Our money market account was $12,290.70. Fund 46 is $60.30. Suicide prevention fund has $5,344.60. Debt service account with $935.34. Referendum amount $59,979.46 for a total balance of $1,753,010.28.
Thank you. Make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Dennis made the motion. Derek second. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Next up is consideration of consent agenda. There are no modifications for full-time or part-time virtual courses.
Move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
So Jeff made the motion, Dave second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Administrative report, student enrollment update.
Right, last day of school, there were 1,572 students in seats as compared to September, 1,592. And then you can see our free and reduced lunch rate ended at 25% students and free and reduced. In resident students, virtual full-time 41, 94 part-time. And then non-resident students in our virtual school ended the year of 331 students from other districts attending our school district virtually. Again, and then at the end of the school year, 472 students open enrolled in versus 127 out for a net of 345 students open enrolled into our district. And then lastly, just want to thank all the ladies in our 4 schools and an Abbey district office for their work in this. It's very detailed. It's very complex. It's not just a clicker and counting students. It's way more complex than that. This report obviously is very helpful monthly. That's why the board has prioritized giving it monthly. So again, thank you to those 5 ladies for all they do. And their work in this, I get a 2-month, 3-month really reprieve on that. So as we get into obviously prioritizing budgets and preparing for the annual meeting and skyward rollover, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people think summer is off, but not so for the folks that work full time. Very busy getting ready for next year. So again, thanks to all those involved.
Okay. Next up is key work of our school board. And it's student, staff, and community recognition.
All right, I'm gonna bucket these a little bit, but so the first group here is all from track. So Brady Jackman and shot put and discus, Lena Wilson shot put, Matthew Goosen 100 meter 400, and that might be cut off. Kristen Steinke 4x4. 4x4, yeah, it's cut off. Aaron Seiler 4x4, Owen Herring 4x4, Lily Klinkhammer 300 hurdles and 4x something. 4x4, thank you. Emma Lammers 4x4, Caden Strudel 4x4, and Brooke Nally 4x4. Congrats on your successful track and field year. To represent SCC at the state level is so exciting for our school district. Your hard work and determination is paying off. We have a track group here. So Mason Clennon, Cirrus Mikla, Jackson Lanu, Silas Underdahl, Haley Bauer, Liam Boyle, Joshua Lanu, Riley Cran, Landry Roseboom, Maya Binner, Nate Hind, Braden Underdahl, Isaac Bauer, Oliver Cram, Logan Deal, Bryce Folks, Garrett, I didn't practice that one. Engsither, thank you. Justin Camp, Thomas Graham, help me with this one. Amethyst, Morrow, Benjamin Rustan, and James Voigt. Congratulations on competing in this trap state tournament. We're so proud of all your hard work and accomplishments. It's so awesome to have St. Croix Central represented at the state level. We hope you have a great summer. Braden Rasmussen, congratulations, Braden, on representing SCC at the state tournament this year in golf. Your sectionals qualifying story is one that gives us goosebumps for you to make. We are so proud of the mental toughness that you displayed. Hope you have an amazing summer. Laura Hansen, Ella Burgett, and Renata Rath. congratulations on being crowned one of this year's Roberts Royal Ambassadors. And Emily Roos, congratulations on being crowned this year's Roberts Grand Royal Ambassador and Miss Congeniality.
Have fun doing parades.
Thank you. So 11B is consideration of approval of revision to SCC Employee Handbook, Part 1, Section 3.25D and Part 1, Section 3.25.
Any questions on revisions? Driver, like what's, oh, the driver for D, we've got a long-standing tradition of allowing our drivers to transport, to have their children and or grandchildren ride along. But once we've reached a threshold where a driver would like to have more than two, and it's thought for safety reasons, driver has two arms. If you need to evacuate, we want the priority to be on all kids evacuating the buses, so no more than two. So that's the impetus for D. And then E. What's that?
No, no, it's for both. The
What did
next
I
one is
say?
for D. You said D.
Yeah. He's saying letter D, Kelly.
Oh, I thought you because the
Yeah.
other one's for D.
Oh, not D.
Oh.
Not D. Letter D. And then the personal vehicle use, just again, a budget thing. We would prefer to use our district vehicles, be the first priority versus using personal vehicles where we have, are required to reimburse at the federal mileage rate. We have vehicles, want to encourage our staff to use those district vehicles first. So those are the reasons behind D and E.
Thank you. So we need a motion.
Second.
Dave made the motion, Jeff second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So core agenda items. We have discussion regarding the preliminary 25-26 budget.
So you should have a hard copy in front of you for budget changes that, last month when we came and presented an approximate $600,000 shortfall for next year's budget. So we went to work with the whole administrative team and came up with a plan to reduce our expenditures by about that same amount. So we ended up coming up with about $620,000 worth of budget cuts that we could implement. Some of them we're still kind of talking about. So there might be a few changes later, but I felt like this was a really good plan. So I'll just point out some of the changes from what we talked about last month. So one of them was to reduce a 1 FTE sped paraprofessional. Another one was to reduce a 1 FTE behavioral interventionist. We also discussed keeping our pay rates the same for our substitute teachers instead of increasing that with the CPI. The one that we're still discussing is the curriculum advisory pay. I think we've decided that we will reduce that to 0, but we're still talking about the BLT pay. So that's our building leadership teams. Freezing our extracurricular pay scales at the 24-25 level. So if we have staff members that are moving from step 5 to step 6, they will still do that, but there won't be an actual increase in the amounts on that pay scale. I talked to Alicia over at JA Counter about our health insurance renewal. And after that discussion, we both felt comfortable, even though our maximum increase is 12%, we felt comfortable budgeting for a 10% increase. Our claims right now are looking pretty good, but keep in mind that in the fall now, we won't have as much flexibility if we implement that at this point in time. So that alone saved about $42,000. Everything else, let's see if there was the same, then we got into, the administrator superintendent license program. We had, estimated 4 administrators last month, and we've reduced that to 1. So some of the other miscellaneous items down below are things that ironically we've cut in the past. Not having staff holiday hams and turkeys, getting rid of the activity bus. We usually only have a couple students that ride that bus. We were able to save some money with our STAR subscription. And then we thought maybe we could do an alternative staff engagement survey to replace the Q12 to potentially save some funds there. So any questions on any of the items listed?
Everything on here, there's some advocate that is impacted. I really don't like the superintendent board learning fees. I think that activity has really helped our board be as good as they are. And so I really would hope that we could find some way to continue that.
Okay. Yeah, and this plan does allow to keep the 2.95% CPI increase for all of our regular contracted staff members. So I know that was a high priority as well.
Nice work.
Tough duty.
It's not easy. We worked through it as a team, and I think we came up with a pretty good plan. Any other questions?
No actions needed to be taken.
No.
Any other questions, John?
Thanks.
Thank you, John. We have the consideration, second reading of board policies.
There are no changes made to any of those policies from the first reading.
Move to approve core agenda items B through J.
Second.
Lance made the motion, Jeff second. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? We've got consideration of first reading of the board policy 663.
There's one straggler, probably
Yeah.
should have matched it with this, but that gets us then to the end of all the policy resource guide, WSP policy resource guide samples that we did not have. So that will complete everything that we don't have, and then we will get started on reviewing and updating our policies and the 5-year rotation plan.
And this first reading doesn't change anything that we're doing now in terms of insurance coverage or any of that.
I'll refer to Jen on that. She was looking at the bonding for officers and employees. We don't currently, to our knowledge, have anybody like that. It just has that option, and that's what WSB suggested in case we ever were to exercise that option. But it's pretty rare that somebody would have to be bonded as an officer or employee. They do the bonding through construction stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Possible future agenda items plan. So we have the upcoming dates that are important. July 23rd, school district annual meeting, budget hearing at 6 with the school board meeting immediately following. 15-day district. August 7th, the school board development meeting, 5 p.m. in the district office. August 20th is the school board meeting at 7 p.m. in the district office. So Next up is convene to close session. Need a motion.
All right. For Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parentheses, C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee for which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. All five. Oh crap. Consider one, consideration of approval of wages and benefits for 25-26, approval of resignations, retirements, and terminations, approval of appointments and contract modifications, complaints against employees and responses, and the fifth one is employee investigations and responses.
So Nate made the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Gary, the second, then roll call.
Aye. Aye.
55.
Like an old man.